We should be starting to talk about pregnancy in trimester 0, not the first trimester.
What exactly is trimester 0? What is the time frame that people should be utilizing to prepare for pregnancy, and how do they prepare?
40 to 50% are also male factor, but 90% of the treatments we are giving couples are targeting women. My husband wasn't even asked to come into the visits. Why are you taking the burden on yourself?
When we put our husbands on trimester 0, when we kind of leveled up what we were doing, we had the positive outcomes.
And in my own journey, it's funny because I had multiple miscarriages.
But most people start thinking of this when there's a problem.
Dr. Afruzamiri, welcome to our masterclass. Let's jump straight in and talk about the hottest topic on TikTok that's trending right now, trimester 0. Is this a trend? Is this something new? What is trimester 0?
I'm so happy. I heard from you that this has become a TikTok trend, and this was my dream. I had my daughter, I was sitting in the hospital, and I coined this term. I thought, what could I have done? And I realized I never looked before pregnancy, and I was in first trimester and did everything at that time. I started my prenatal. I ate well. I wasn't really drinking, but I made sure I didn't have tuna. I did all the right things. And so I went to my OB and she's like, no, this is what you're supposed to do. We did all the tests, which was syphilis, HIV, really basic stuff. And I was told I was fine. And so I never thought about it. But trimester 0 is something that's been around forever. We just never really knew the term for it. But it is something that I hope doesn't just become a TikTok trend. But I'm really glad that at least people are talking about it and they know that they can control some parts to fertility. We can change the embryo. We can change and impact the egg and the sperm. And we should be starting to talk about pregnancy in trimester 0, not the first trimester.
Is this just for women?
Great question. I thought it was just for women because that's what my doctors told me when I had an unhealthy child or a miscarriage. I was told that it's you, and my husband wasn't even asked to come into the visits. And when I asked about his sperm, could it be something he ate? Could it be something he did? No, absolutely not. So not only were men not included, they were told it's not them. Thank God we have research. We now know that 50% of sperm quality and counts have gone down in the last 5 decades. So where are we headed and why is that happening? So it's not just about numbers, it's the quality that's also gone down. And now we know that 50% of miscarriages, 40 to 50% are also male factor. But 90% of the treatments we are giving couples are targeting women. So absolutely men need to be looked at more and brought into the fertility conversation before pregnancy, because once a woman's pregnant, there's not much a man can do at that point. But we do know that 50% of that child you're going to have is going to come from your partner. And so what he has been doing in the past 2-3 months before conception is going to impact the quality of that sperm. And I never even thought about this. I went to medical school and no one even taught us this. If we didn't know this, of course no one is thinking of this, and it's still new. You're not going to see a urologist or OBGYN until usually you have a problem. And I want people to, just like you buy a house and you do a foundation check, you do a roof check, you do your inspections, we need to be thinking about things before we conceive.
And I just want to give credit where credit is due and share that after I had my miscarriage and after Vida had her miscarriage, you were our functional medicine doctor, and you helped us uncover what we learned, which was that it wasn't just all on us, where we were looking back at what were we eating? Was I working too hard? Was it because I went sledding with my daughter? Was it because I went on an airplane? Literally scrutinizing every little thing that we did. And then we learned from you that sperm quality impacts 50% of pregnancy health and miscarriage. And it's so obvious when you learn it. Back then, we really had no idea. So thank you for that. And really, that was what led us to starting We Natal. But let's get more specific on trimester 0. When I had my miscarriage, I was similar to you, very healthy. I was working with Dr. Mark Hyman. I was taking supplements, or at least I thought I was taking good supplements. What exactly is trimester 0? What is the time frame that people should be utilizing to prepare for pregnancy, and how do they prepare?
A lot of good questions. So I would say minimum 3 months before you conceive. If you are thinking of getting pregnant in the future, even if it's 2 years from now, technically you're in trimester 0. But most people start thinking of this when there's a problem. So they're definitely in trimester 0. But because we know it takes about 3 months for, let's just put it all together, sperm and egg to be impacted, we want at least 3 months. And I say at least because sometimes more time is needed. Sometimes women are coming off birth control pill, men are on medications, and it takes time. You can't just stop things, and you can't just optimize things that quickly. There's usually not a lot of quick fixes. And so I say minimum 3 months is when we need for sperm to be impacted, for egg quality to be impacted. So that is trimester 0. What is it? What do you do? Where do you start? And that's going to have to be personalized for everyone, right? I don't want cookie cutter protocols because everyone, just because they're 42, is not the same. The egg quality in those two 42-year-olds is not the same. We have statistics. We do know that as we age, yes, we know fertility goes down. Everyone knows that. But not everyone is the same. Your predisposition, your quality of the egg and the sperm that had you, and the way you lived your life is also important. Your mutations, your epigenetics, how you lived, what you ate, how much toxicants are inside you. There's so much, right? You are so much that you don't even know. You're not even aware physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, what's inside you. Most of us have no clue. We don't need to test everything, but I always say start with looking at you as just a whole person and asking yourself, how am I doing? Like, where am I at? Do I have any symptoms? Do I have good energy? Always vitality is key. Do I feel energized? Do I feel alive when I wake up in the morning? Am I grateful to be alive? Is it a good day? Do I have that feeling? That's important, right? Second, how's my sleep? Sleep is when everything is repaired. And we usually say health is removing obstacles to cure. Meaning you don't have to necessarily always add things to you. Sometimes we just need to remove some things first, right? It's just like a river that's clogged. You need to come and remove everything first and say, okay, am I sleeping well? Am I going to the bathroom every day? Am I sweating every day? Am I getting enough sunshine, right? And if I'm not, what do I need not to do so that those things can happen? Because they're all around us. That's natural. The rhythm of life, that circadian rhythm, is so key to health. And we sometimes complicate life, especially in the functional medicine world. In the world that I live in, I can do all the lab testing in the world. And, we can spend thousands and thousands of time and money. But just starting with those basic things like touch, love, sleep, sunshine, good quality food, and not obsessing about food either. I'm actually a proponent, we were just talking about this earlier, about obsessing about counting your protein and counting your calories and counting everything and lab testing every 3 months. And that type A personality, that controlling in a way, can sometimes get in the way of fertility because your nervous system is going to be on that sympathetic overdrive, which is that, like, as if you're running from a tiger, right? That fight or flight response, it's always on. And we need more parasympathetic tonification. And I say this not to nerd out, but because I used to do a lot of EEG testing and check this when I was at UCI. I couldn't believe how many of my patients who seemed okay on the outside, they're young, they're in their late 30s. They would come so high in that alert, fight or flight. It was way too high. And I thought, how do I get them to relax? How do I get them to calm down? How do I get their nervous system to feel safe? And it's the worst thing to hear doctors say, like, you need to relax more, you need to calm down more. No one wants to hear that. And it's like, I know, if I could, I would have. How? And I tested myself, and I was one of those people. So I realized I got to start walking the talk. Like, if I am this person, and I didn't want to have kids anymore, but to me, fertility is a sign that you are very much aligned. And I think the nervous system is something that we don't usually think of fertility. You know, it's like, what is that? Do I see a neurologist? Do I see an endocrinologist? Who addresses that? We know the word stress, which is not a great word because it actually stresses people out more. But I would say looking at trimester 0 in a positive way that brings you calm, that makes you feel like I'm doing well, I'm doing good, I'm doing the best that I can. It should not make you feel bad about what you're doing. That is the last thing I want. When I teach trimester 0, I always say you're doing the best you can and you don't need to be better. You actually don't need to be better. Sometimes just saying no to things and being nicer to yourself, kinder to yourself, you know, thinking, okay, maybe I'm doing too much. Maybe the to-do list of meditation and yoga and this and that, or all the things I'm doing is stressing me out, you know?
It defeats the purpose if it's stressing you out.
Yeah, but then also being compassionate if that is you and being able to see, what do I really need? You know, maybe my hormones are off. Maybe my progesterone is low. Maybe egg quality is an issue. Maybe the sperm I was told is okay and no one really looked at it properly, because I see that all the time. And they're like, oh no, it's not the sperm. And I'm like, can I see? And I look and I'm like, it absolutely is the sperm. Why are you taking the burden on yourself when this is 2 percentile? The DNA fragmentation hasn't been tested, or it's been tested and it's not optimal. There's such easier things we can do for the guys, you know, but it's not really talked about. No one is really making this a thing. So I can't wait for trimester 0 to be taken seriously by men, by fathers, so that they can also feel empowered. They can feel happy and excited when they're holding that baby. They're like, I did this, you know, this was half me.
Totally. And in my own journey, it's funny because I had multiple miscarriages. Sean was in the room both of those times. No one looked at him. No one asked him any questions. And in my career, I so thoughtfully did global events for Nike. So I was thinking through the prep that went into what made athletes great and what made people think through every detail to get to that perfection. But when it came to my own pregnancy, I was just like, we're young, we're healthy, we should start trying. And so what I wish now and want to empower anyone who wants to freeze their egg or their sperm, or any maybe couple who wants to start a family. You said a great analogy about checking the foundation. What should we do? But are there simple tests, or are there something for us both partners to do and feel empowered when they go in that doctor's office? Like, I'd like to know how my...
Yes, absolutely. So I say first for the guys. We got to talk about guys first because they're usually last on the list and the women love to just test themselves. So guys, just go for a yearly physical and ask for inflammatory markers. Ask for your vitamin D levels. Ask for your folate levels, red blood cell levels. So what's inside the cell? Actually check your nutrition and then look at symptoms. If you have symptoms, if you've got severe anxiety, depression, ADHD, and you're on medications, please check. Usually I say medications are hard for our liver and our baby's liver to process. So optimizing the man first and bringing him into the equation and getting these checked is crucial. For the women, we want to make sure there's no clotting issues, right? So I'm always about miscarriage prevention. Even if they don't have it in their family history, they haven't had one, I don't want them to have one. And yes, we cannot control everything as doctors, but I have seen in 20 years of doing this, so many couples that did nothing and they're coming to me after third miscarriage. We do something, they have a healthy baby. I had a woman with 10 miscarriages. We figured out, okay, she's inflamed, autoimmune, clotting, and no one had looked at that, right? So we shouldn't have to wait so far to get these tests. So to answer your question, I think everything should be tested before pregnancy. Why not? Why wait till something is wrong? Because it's really hard, you know, and I think some of these things can be prevented.
So talk to us about clotting, because I know that a lot of people go to their doctor and ask for testing, and doctors often don't want to test unless you've already gone down the road of at least 2 miscarriages. So what is that test for clotting?
So anticardiolipin antibodies is the first one, and so many people have it. They didn't know they had it. Sometimes you have a miscarriage and then this gets triggered. And so then they were like, oh, I didn't have it before. And then I tested again and now it's high. So anticardiolipin antibody is one. Another one I love to test is fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is like, how thick is the blood? And this is usually done in cardiovascular settings. So in a lot of our cardiology cases, we're doing this. Typically, this isn't done for fertility. But I want to know, is the blood thick and going to clot? And PT, PTT, INR are just clotting factor tests that we do typically when someone's on medication to see, you know, are they going to bleed to test for clotting. And after clotting,
blood tests.
they're just blood tests, simple blood tests. So I would start there. Autoimmune is another one. Sometimes because this is something foreign, we want to make sure our immune system is healthy enough to convert to a system. And I don't want to nerd out too much, but it has to kind of transition to a different way of reacting. The way we react to bacteria or an infection, we get a fever, right? But when you have something like a child growing in you, the immune system shifts, it changes. And we want to make sure it doesn't almost attack itself and think, oh, this is something foreign, and react to it. So we can check for autoimmune issues prior to pregnancy. And if someone's Hashimoto's, lupus, ANA is positive, so anti-nuclear antibody. It's not specific. It's not telling me this is for sure an autoimmune disease, but at least it's telling me there's something going on. The nucleus of a cell is being attacked or, guarded. And it's like, why? Why is that happening? Could it be a virus? Could it be something more? So I like to investigate that. I don't see a positive and go, okay, it's nothing. Don't worry. Let's just see what happens. And after anti-nuclear antibodies and looking for autoimmune issues, then I definitely check nutrients, vitamin D, iron, red blood cell magnesium, EPA and DHA, because we don't want to just prevent and be acting out of fear of like, oh, what could go wrong? We actually want to make sure this child is getting the best nutrients, is that egg quality and sperm quality are bathed in an environment that has lots of antioxidants, and it's not aging, because antioxidant status, or what we call oxidative stress, is what ages the cell. It's like when you cut an apple and it goes brown, right? That oxidation, or when things go bad, you can take things to prevent that. And we now have research on these things. Back when I was pregnant, we didn't know a lot of these things. So it is an exciting time, I think, for couples to be conceiving, because there's also a lot of fear with, there's a lot of toxicants in the air. Oh my gosh, the sperm count's gone down. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of that talk. But we also have a lot more knowledge. We have supplements that we didn't have. We have NAD and NMN and fish oils that we can test for mercury, and vitamin D statuses that have been checked in trimester 0 and seen, does this make a difference? How so? EPA, DHA, does it make a difference? We now have this kind of data, and I have my own clinical data for 20 years, but it's nice now to see it coming out into the world.
I love it. So to recap, the cause of miscarriage could be clotting issues.
It could be autoimmune. It could be low progesterone. So progesterone is kind of, think of it as like a nest bird makes, and you want that endometrial lining to be thick and staying there. And that's really important. So estrogen helps that lining, and progesterone helps make it stay. And so progesterone is also a huge thing that I actually like to optimize and give before conception. I know a lot of people start their progesterone as soon as they find out they're pregnant, by week 5, week 6. Why not have it be optimal before, and we need more data on this. But just from 20 years of doing this, I have found it to be effective to optimize, because if it is low, it's too late. I have not found it to help prevent. If I had seen it low and for whatever reason the patient didn't start it, or their OB said not to start it until pregnancy, I've seen a lot of times that not working. And so I have taken it into my hands to study this myself clinically, and I find it to be much more helpful if prioritized before. It makes sense. It's like, why wait?
You need it before.
Yeah, exactly. Because often you find out and it's too late. So much has already occurred by the time you find out you're pregnant. What else? Miscarriage, men, sperm quality, DNA fragmentation, and things that men could have taken, antioxidants, folate, vitamin D, so many things they could do, because the quality of that sperm. Basically, if you think of a miscarriage, often is it the body just saying, this is something that's unhealthy that I don't want to carry? We don't know. I mean, we can't study that. But that theory makes sense, because a lot of times when we do test afterwards, especially after the 3rd or 4th, we see, yes, there were chromosomal issues. There were genetic abnormalities. And it's like, was the body intelligent in some way? I don't know. It's really hard for me to talk about that, because I had a child with a chromosomal issue, and she's the biggest gift of my life. And a part of me is like, thank God I didn't miscarry her, even though all my doctors said you should have miscarried her, because she shouldn't be here. It's rare that, you're missing missing a whole entire X chromosome and you make it at 39 weeks. But this little trooper, she wanted to be here. So, I'm torn that way because medicine and then my heart and what happened to me in reality, okay, N equals 1, but could I have prevented a chromosomal issue? And I think this has been my question for life, because I was taught and my geneticist said that this was just an accident. It's just, it happens. We don't know why. It will never happen again. It's very rare. And I realized, why does it happen so often to so many people? Like, if it's so random, like how many random things can happen so often? And can this be something that we can prevent? Can it be if a chromosome is missing or we have an extra one, or there's all these genetic mutations and we're studying epigenetics, there's got to be more to this. And I have found that's actually not a statement that I go by anymore, that it's just random, that it's just accident. Because I know that has to do with the egg and the sperm and what happens when they meet and divide and,
I mean, that's exactly what we were both told. It's random. Just keep trying. And it didn't make sense to me to hear that from my doctor. Like, also, why would I just keep trying? If this will happen to me again, I don't want this to happen to me again. It was so painful. And the truth of the matter is when we took the steps that you taught us, when we put our husbands on trimester 0, when we kind of leveled up what we were doing, we had the positive outcomes. I got pregnant with Emma and gave birth to her 4 days after my 42nd birthday.
Yeah. And she's thriving. I mean, that's what's important to me, because I have seen the moms and dads over the years who weren't doing anything in trimester 0, and maybe I'd never even pushed it and it was fine. Then I see the kids with their asthma, their eczema, their autoimmune diseases, and some with leukemia and such. And over the years, I did not choose trimester 0 as my field. I didn't actually want to do cancer or fertility. Those were two things I always said are too hard, like from my heart, and they're usually, emotional. I just wanted to deal with the regular constipation and headaches and migraines and, like the things I call maybe easier. But my little Naya chose this path for me, because I wanted to have more kids and I was just so scared. I was like, I don't want this to happen again. The first one, then this. And I thought, that's it, and thank God I didn't give up. And that's when I started researching and I found there's so much research that I was like, they didn't teach us this. Why doesn't even the fertility doctors I'm asking about, they're always saying usually, or I don't want to say always, often they'll say there's not enough research. There's not enough evidence. There's not enough evidence. Well, there wasn't enough evidence for many things that were recommended. So many drugs are used not for their actual use. They're not FDA approved for so many things and they're used. So why is that okay? And this one that seems a bit more common sense is looked down upon. Like, for example, folate, right? It's like I took folic acid. I didn't know anything about gene mutations. My daughter completely has all the folic acid mutations. So, and I took a high dose, which was interesting because my OB had said because I'd had a miscarriage, I should take triple the folic acid dose, not knowing that she couldn't even break it down. And I didn't know any. I am also mutated, not as much as her. She has both copies from both her parents. But this became a mission of mine to really look into this and examine this with my patients, check them and see, okay, we have tests, we have a lot of evidence on folic acid and what it has prevented, which is fantastic. But just because we have not checked that against something that's exactly the same, but the natural version that's actually being able to broken down by the body, why is there so much negativity and debate? And I mean, this became like a war for me with my colleagues. And I thought, this doesn't make sense. Like, there's other things we should be really arguing about. Is this factual? Is this ego? What is it? And so I have become very much about researching this with my patients, researching levels, looking at labs, looking at their symptoms, not just cleft palate, but so much more. And we need a broader perspective in science. We are so sometimes narrow in what we measure, one outcome, this prevents this, and therefore this is it. There's nothing else that's as good. And it's like, wait a second, have you looked at other things that now this person has? And what could they be from? And that's where science sometimes is not good at. We can prevent one thing and we measure that outcome, but what else does that person have that wasn't looked at? And that's what I love about what I do as a naturopathic doctor. I have to look at the whole person because they're not coming to me just for one thing. They're saying, I'm also on the spectrum. I also have difficulty focusing. And then 5 years later, I'm suicidal. My son is very depressed and is having mood disorders. And it's like, are these things all random? Now they went to the pediatrician, then they go to the psychologist, then they're now in psychiatry on meds. And it's like, wait a second. We need to be looking and talking about everything that is to come, not just this helps this and therefore this is the only thing. We have to start having real conversations from people who have experience, not just looking at one study and saying this was studied and this was the outcome, therefore that's it, and this is the only way. And that's what I'm hoping from my book and the research more doctors will do, looking at trimester 0, doing things safely, doing things that make sense, doing things that have evidence, and then having the funding to be able to write up this evidence, because that's another obstacle. I have so much. And when I was at UCI, we wanted funding for a lot of these things to be written, but I mean, I don't want to get into that, but it's complicated.
Well, I'd say you're starting to allude to like this mind-body connection. And I was just chatting with you before we recorded that when I came to that first visit, I was so distraught. It was my second miscarriage. I felt flawed. I was called geriatric, all the things. And I remember I was just expecting you to run labs, and you actually sat with me and your first question was, well, why do you want a second child? And you went so deep with me. I was in tears. And first of all, kudos to like such a practitioner that cares and wants to like help you be conscious about why. I remember like it was a pivotal moment of like I really had to go deep with you. And we were talking a little bit about this conscious conception, which I feel like so many of us, including myself, Roni gave me a checklist. I took the vitamins. I did all the preconception trimester 0 things that you told me to do.
Yeah.
But I was so stressed
Yeah.
and I was so hard on myself. And now there's more research coming out about it's not just woo-woo, but like our mind plays a huge role in having kids. So can you tell us a little more?
Yeah, I mean, technically it's called psychoneuroimmunology or psychoneuroendocrinology. And this is my passion. My undergrad was in psychoneurology or biopsychology, studying the mind and seeing how it impacts neurotransmitters, hormones. So scientifically, it's been shown it's not woo-woo at all. We are literally, our thoughts and our mind has such an impact. Placebo effect. I mean, just look at it. Is insane that you could cut a person and put them through surgery and not do anything and they feel better. That is the power of the mind. And so why are we not using it? When it comes to fertility, we have lots of research on people who did things in groups, people who were bonding with their relationships with their partner, because that's your nervous system. It affects ultimately your state of reproduction, which is being in that parasympathetic mode, being in a state where your body feels safe, it feels relaxed. And I know no one wants to hear that. Like, yes, I feel safe. I'm safe. I want to get pregnant. Okay. But literally your system that is like, wait, am I in survival mode? Because right now I'm scared, or I'm worried, and I'm not saying that people like that don't get pregnant. They can, absolutely. We have all kinds. I have seen it all. I have heroin addicts who have babies, and I have the perfect couple who are doing everything right and it's not working, right? So there is something to be said that we are truly not in control, but I'm talking about the mind and consciously being aware of the state you're in and your partner and the relationship of, wait a second, like, where are we at, honey? Like, how are you feeling? How are we feeling? What is really inside me? Have I even had space or the permission to express fully like the fears that I have actually, because most often we don't even go there. We're so fix it, give me control. I don't want to go there. It's too painful. That I think sometimes I ask that because I'm actually really curious, like, why do people want to have kids? Because I've actually heard a lot of crazy things as the answer. One being that, when a partner is not there, sometimes they'll say, I'm actually tired. I actually don't, but I'm doing this for my partner, or my partner doesn't want it and I want a third, or I want a second. And I think it's so important because obviously after you have a child, it's not going to go away. There's usually, if there's something there, just like buying a house, you'd want to know if that roof is going to fall on you or if the foundation isn't there. And it's just bringing that awareness. So it's not about like you need therapy, you need to do something about it, but just creating space for authenticity, for genuineness, for permission just to be real and say like, I'm excited. I actually have hope. And someone else might say, I don't. I'm really scared and nervous. Okay, now we know. Can we just not judge that? Can we just allow there to be both of these? And can we just witness each other? Can we just be there for each other? Because that gets very, very difficult when you're doing rounds and rounds of IVF. So much money spent, so many labs. The women tend to do a lot more. They're doing all these visits and they're researching, they're scrolling at night on their Instagram when their husband maybe wants some intimacy or wants a hug or wants touch, And so this is that time to really conceive consciously, which means more aware, bringing the subconscious up to that conscious level.
I will say, like, when we started Wenatal, we didn't know, are men gonna be truly part of this brand? Like, where we placed our first orders for Wenatal for him, Wenatal for her, and we're like, okay, I mean, we're putting a bet on this. Who knows? Are men gonna buy this product? And I remember, like, maybe 3 months after we launched, all of our subscribers get a free nutrition consult. And Lisa, our head nutritionist, called us and she said, you're not going to believe it. A man just showed up to a nutrition consult. And this was 3 months in. Now, 4 years later, I can't even tell you how many Wenatal men are part of our community that reach out to us that say, thank you for giving me a tool and a way to participate in this fertility equation. And also, I feel so much better and I have better libido and my hair is growing and we love our Wenatal men. And I think that, having the couple do it together definitely changes that kind of mindset and makes it less stressful for the couple. Because at the end of the day, life is stressful and stress is not going away. But if you have a partner that's going through it with you and is supportive and you're able to communicate with each other and they kind of understand what you're going through because they're going through it with you at the same time, I think that makes the biggest difference.
And honestly, I'll tell you, we're not trying to get pregnant, but this has become a ritual in our household that is fun. And because I know it was made with the best, I mean, I helped formulate it, so I'm a little biased because I wasn't going to put my name on something that I was like, I need enough evidence, I need enough clinical experience to make something that is worthy to sell, because as you know, I've always said there's this conflict of interest with doctors, and I am so proud to give this to my husband. And I love at nights, he takes it at night, even though I tell him to take it in the morning.
I take it at night too.
Yeah. Every night he opens our wine fridge, which has no wine in it, and it's full of supplements. And he takes out the Wenatal packages, he lays them all out, and he does his fish oil and he does his prenatal for men. My daughter and my son this morning, they made a smoothie and they take their protein and collagen. And I give them the best because honestly, if you're trying to conceive, those are the times you want to take whatever was made for that. Hopefully by a brand like yourself who really brings quality and it's not just marketing. It's not just putting the minimal amount of things in there. This is good stuff. So our family takes it and it's fun. It's become a ritual. I love everything about it. And that's how health should be. It should be something that you look forward to, something that doesn't feel like a chore. It actually brings you a good feeling about yourself, and it's not coming out of fear. It's coming because you just love yourself so much that it's nice and it tastes good and you swallow it easily. I mean, that's why I love the fish oil. I'm like, good quality fish oil that's not like a horse pill, So on so many levels, I have to thank you guys because you've added health to my family who wasn't even trying to have a baby. So thank you.
We love that. And I have so many friends, especially here in LA, who haven't found their partners yet and are being rushed to freeze eggs or rushed to freeze sperm. Can you explain why trimester 0 is even equally important, even if you're just freezing your sperm or egg? Because I have some friends who already did it and they're like, no one even told me to prepare.
They were drinking the margaritas the night before their retrieval.
Right. And so now they know what they know, and I want to empower anyone. It's great. And it's great that we have this technology, great insurance policy. A lot of us have careers or having kids later in life, and we want to do that. And that's a wonderful, tool in our toolkit. But why is it important to, maybe if you're told you should, or you want to because you want to have that, why should you take trimester 0 to prep, even in that case?
I learned the hard way. I learned by patients coming to see me after they had frozen their eggs. They find the love of their life. They go through IVF. It didn't work over and over and over. None left. They're devastated. And that is the last patient I want to see. Why? Because I don't like not being able to help my patients. So that's when I realized, oh my gosh, I never even thought about that, right? And this is years and years ago. And I thought, oh my God, why didn't anyone tell them to check the quality of their egg before they froze it? And even today, these clinics, I have reached out to them because a patient comes to me and they're like, but they told me I don't need to. They just said, take the medication, first birth control pill, then these shots. I don't have to do anything. And I see them now on Instagram, influencers showing all the shots they're doing, all excited. It is actually the most crucial people to target is the people freezing their eggs. They have to. You're going through all that work. Imagine the day comes, God forbid, I hope it doesn't, where you go to use those eggs and they're like, sorry, they're not good quality. They didn't take. You are going to feel so bad that you didn't do anything before to prepare. And I don't want that for anyone. I'm not saying this to make anyone feel bad if they didn't, but because I feel so bad for them because I can't help them anymore. And so egg quality matters, and it can be something that you can influence before your egg freezing. And I hope one day they do this with sperm. If you're getting a sperm donor, nothing was done to that sperm either. God knows what they were doing before. So that's important too. And I hope that's the next talk is sperm banks having a trimester 0 approved, we'll not know, but at least measuring things, measuring DNA fragmentation, antioxidant levels, CoQ10 levels in the blood before they give blood. Before they give sperm, CRP levels, all of these things matter, but I would definitely check progesterone 7 days ovulation before you egg freeze. And you want to make sure you've ruled out PCOS because you will have lots of follicles and it will look good that you have a lot of eggs. So many, unfortunately, have PCOS. They don't know they have it. They go and they get lots of eggs and they're so excited and they get a congratulations. And I see them and I'm hoping that that's not them, but they end up, a lot of them, in my office, and it's heartbreaking to go, yeah, you had a lot, your AMH looked good, your follicle count was great because you had PCOS, your progesterone was high. If it's too high and it's too good to be true, please examine it. So that's one thing I see is really high progesterone, AMH looking fantastic, lots of follicles, it could be PCOS, and they froze eggs that were immature and not good quality.
So if you have PCOS automatically because of insulin resistance, it
so many things, high testosterone, androgen, there's different kinds of PCOS. But usually the egg quality is not good. It hasn't fully matured. It's having an issue maturing. And that's why there's so many of them, but none of them usually take. That's why their periods can be irregular. Sometimes they're not. I've had friends with PCOS who have none of the typical symptoms that you would see. So there's different kinds, but that's why it's important to look at the ovarian ultrasound. Look at your hormone levels, your estrogen, progesterone, free and total testosterone, DHEAS, which is, these are the androgens, insulin, glucose, fasting, all of that has to be looked at. And then if something looks too good to be true, like if your AMH is extremely high, like too good for your age, progesterone is really high, that's when I go, okay, no, it can't, something doesn't make sense here. And so I've seen that a lot in practice, that I had a suspicion, I brought it up, they froze their eggs and they went to use it and none of them worked. And so again, I'm not saying this to scare anyone, and that's not the goal, but we really need clinics to start looking at this and not just be concerned with how many they get.
Quality, not quantity.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm so tired of people saying we can't measure quality. There's so many different ways to measure quality. Quality is not just like a number test. There's many different things. So symptoms is one. Progesterone post-ovulation is one. Looking at antioxidant levels is one. And looking not just at AMH, but there's a factor of tests that we look at. And if on all levels, I'm like, okay, estrogen levels look good. Progesterone post-ovulation is 10, 9. Okay, we're good. Your regular periods, you have 5-day bleeds and they're bright red and they're not clotty. And, you've got to look at so many different things to see the health of that female. And then you say, okay, you're ready. You've done everything we possibly can. So I usually ask my women, give me 3 months. Let me check everything. Let me make sure before you freeze your eggs. And sometimes they'll say, oh, I'm going in next week. And I ask them, like, please pause. Just give me 3 months or at least 2 months to check everything. And if everything looks good, I'll tell you, go for it. But often that's not done. I don't ever want to say that because I know the clinics are doing their best. But so far, I have not found a clinic that I'm referring people to because they are that comprehensive and diligent and really care about quality.
We hope it gets there, because I think our biggest point of supporting our We Natal community is telling them to be their own advocates, and why episodes like this will dramatically empower people. And it's not about fear mongering, it's not about shaming, it's about us giving them the tools to feel empowered in whatever route they take. And thank you, because I think you've armed us with such amazing things to look for, things to do, things to feel more optimism around this ever increasing space. And actually something you taught me, that while everyone was telling me that my labs are normal, they're normal, they weren't optimal. And we dug deeper and I checked my thyroid. I had Hashimoto's. We got that taken care of. And that's when I had my first daughter. And so the PSA is also just make sure you know your body best, like you've told us. And people really need to be their own advocates in every health.
I mean, even Yuri and I were talking about this yesterday. Even if someone goes to like the best of the best doctor, clinic, if you are not advocating for yourself, looking at your labs yourself, you're working with another person. Doctors are just human beings. They can miss things, they're seeing so many patients. Even in a smaller clinic setting, it's just so important to be on top of it, to look at your blood work, to ask questions, and, do the research.
Yes, and there comes a balance, because I also know that this concept that I've created can create more awareness, and with awareness you have to know yourself. If you're more prone to anxiety and worry and wanting to control, I have to sometimes tell my patients, I sense you're overwhelmed, because there's a lot of information, there's a lot they learn, all right? So please find that balance. When you feel empowered, hopefully the empowered energy is a calm empowered energy, not an empowered in a version of like, oh my God, I just learned so much, I'm going to go do this test, that test, take this, do that, we got to change this, we got to throw this out. And it can cause a lot, because already as women, we do so much. The last thing we need, I want to bring on to people is, you've got plastics and you should be doing this and you should be too many things. So I always say, stick to 1 or 2 things that that if you improve those, you would feel better. And that usually is a good sign. That's you going towards fertility, whether it's exercising more or walking outside in the sun more. And that's why I keep it simple. And if someone comes to me and they say, we're doing all the things and it's not working, something is wrong there too.
Yeah.
Because
there's some sort of imbalance.
Yeah, there's an imbalance there. It's too much doing. It's overdoing. Whenever you overdo something gets underdone, and it's the balance of the yin and the yang.
Yeah. And I would just say, like, to wrap things up, we always say to people, like, at the very least, you should be on a good quality prenatal. And again, we are biased. We have a prenatal supplement company, but the nutrients make a big difference on overall health, on building nutrient reserves, on egg quality, on sperm quality. So at the very least, but I agree with you, a lot of things in wellness don't need a 35-step protocol. No. They're simple. It's about community. It's about sleep. It's about spending time outdoors. It's about sunshine.
And it's about releasing when you feel like releasing, like we're hearing the kids. It's being playful, it's being in the moment. But back to the prenatal, I do want to say what I see commonly in all my patients, whether it's cancer patients or autoimmune patients, pediatric patients, infertility cases, nutrient deficiencies everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so I know you were pitching a prenatal, but really you're not, because before you guys came along, I had to give patients all of these separately.
Mm-hmm. That's what we were doing.
Yeah, that's what I gave you guys.
Exactly. Oh, you should have seen my kitchen It was like full of like probably 12 things.
And believe me, I'm not, I mean, ask my husband, I don't take a lot of supplements. I don't like taking a lot of supplements. I don't like that part of what people think we do. We don't do that. That's not true. It's truly measuring, okay, you're eating all these things and it's not getting absorbed. Stomach acid is low, microbiome is whatever, and it's not getting in. It's not in your cells. So what am I going to do? Say, keep eating more and more and more and more food? So it is essential. Mineral deficiencies, everything. Your cell need these. If you hadn't done it in a way, we're disservicing the world by allowing chronic disease to start. So I mentioned obstacles to remove things we don't want. Then we have to put back into the body what it needs.
Yeah.
You do that, you're 90% there. Take out what you don't need, put in what it needs. That's what this prenatal is for me. It is the right dosages, the right forms. Our kids really want us right now. So we need to be on mom duty, but I just want to say that it's really essential to take. I take it, and I always tell people, if you take things that are good for pregnant moms, you know you're going to have good hair, good skin, good health.
Well, words of wisdom from Dr. Fouzdamiri. We appreciate you. Thank you for everything that you've given us, the education, the knowledge, empowering us. And we have a beautiful family and a beautiful company thanks to you. So thank you.
Thank you.
And you're doing amazing work in Trimester Zero. Tell everyone where they can follow along.
Oh, thank you. My book will be out next year, Trimester Zero. I'm on Dr. Demary on Instagram and online. Yeah, you'll find me. I'm on social media a lot. I like to dance too, so.
Added bonus.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.